Welcome to Under the Rug at Work, where I shine light on problems that are normally swept under the rug. Today, I'm chatting with Alanna Ball about mums at work being overlooked. Alanna's the founder and CEO of Women in Safety and the Safety Team, a work health and safety consultant, mentor, and facilitator. Thanks so much for joining me, Alanna.
Thank you, Nicole. Such an important topic for us to chat through today.
Yeah, and not one I've heard talked about a lot, and one though that many mothers I know that have experienced. So I'm really looking forward to this chat and hearing about your experience and who you have connected with and what they're saying as well. So first up though, did things change for you when you told your workplace that you were pregnant?
Yeah, and I reflected on this. I guess my first exposure to this, and I really look at, my pre-mum life, working life, and I want to start there, is I had parents in the team that I was in who would always nick off to go and pick up their kids. It was like, oh, the kid's sick, I got to go and pick them up. And as the non-child bearing worker, I really resented them.
Mm.
And I think that is where I guess my journey in all of this and really wanting to shine a light on this started, because I never realized the flip side of that coin. So as a non-mum in the workplace, seeing those that continually left to go and pick up kids or to have caring responsibilities really made me resent that journey, because I was like, well, hang on a minute. Are you employed or are you a parent? So then I fell pregnant, and what a flip of the coin, some of us might say. So I really started to notice, projects would wind back because I had an end date, right? So think about when you resign from a workplace, that say you've only got 4 weeks, you start to scale back, right? They start pulling projects off you. Maternity leave was no different. I started to find projects being stripped, opportunities. No, sorry, you're going on mat leave. No, sorry, you're going on mat leave. Oh, look, how about you just focus on what you're doing so that you can wrap things up? I was ambulanced into the hospital at 31 weeks with our first child. And I remember the guilt that had been put on me that I'd finished early. Uh, I had to take my work laptop and I was sitting there and I was finalizing emails. I was handing stuff over. The guilt and the it's your fault feeling was just phenomenal. And I was like, how? Like, what? How could I have controlled any of this? Completely outside of my circle. Um, then obviously falling pregnant with twins during COVID, I was really high risk. I was working from home, thankfully. But again, it was this, no, you can't do that, or no, you're not afforded that, promotion or that opportunity. You're not going to step up because you're going to go on mat leave again anyway. So things really changed, and probably not, and I'm not saying that everyone experiences that, but I definitely think, talking in my mum's group circles, that that's a fairly common theme.
Yeah. And I've seen it happen myself. Like I don't have kids, but you see what's happening with other people, and that does. Some women seem really grateful for it. They want to be able to scale back. They want to be able to
Yeah.
work less. But others, you can see the disappointment in their faces. And until you expressed what you've just spoken about, I didn't understand the reason for that, because me being me was too busy working and too busy, with the next deadline and the next goal. So
Mm, mm.
yeah, thank you for sharing that. And it makes so much
I
sense.
just and look, I feel like, even, team member to team member, I really liken it to the resignation, is that
Yeah.
you're treated as if you're leaving the business, when it's like, hang on a minute, I'm going on maternity leave. Like, I want to be included. I
Yeah.
want to know what's going on. I still am functioning. Like, and I get, yes, there is parts that you want to scale back. Your body changes and the physicality of it. But I just think, why are we treated like a resignation when we should be included, so that there is this, like, I really want to return so that I can stay functioning, whatever that looks like for an individual.
It should more be about you not a resignation, but a holiday. You're going on leave. It's leave for
Yeah.
a fun purpose.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Fun.
it's a human, not a holiday.
Yeah. Yeah. I really, really, um, yeah, that was my first kind of experience of it. Because I just went, yeah, right.
So
Things
what about
change.
yeah? So what about when you became a mother? You were on maternity leave. What happened there? What happened when you came back to work? And what have you found others have experienced too?
Yeah, and look, the company I was working for at the time, I guess really one of their um, employee value propositions was around this family friendly workplace and the extended kind of parental leave opportunities. And I was like, parts of the move there was to really embrace that. Uh, One, you go on mat leave you've forgotten about. Um, and you're just left in a dark corner not knowing what's going on in the team. You know, the team has social functions outside of work. Again, it's like you have resigned until the day that you start, and then you've got to do introductions again. And you're like, yeah, right, I'm a new person again. Like everything's changed rather than being kept on the journey as an employee. And I'm not saying it has to be you're in on every team meeting by all means, but just give that opportunity to keep mothers, and I'm talking mothers. I can't speak on a father's journey in this by any means. I can only speak to my own journey as a mother. So when I returned from our first child, I there was an opportunity that came up. Two opportunities. One was a direct promotion into a particular role, and I was told, "Don't bother applying. You're a mum. You need to focus on being a mum." And I was like,
What?
"Whoa, this stuff still happens." Like, whoa, like everything I fight for in the women in safety community about empowerment and everything else was just chucked at me directly as this. No, you need to focus on being a mum, and you've probably got a bit too much on your plate right now. Well, can I be the judge of what's on my plate or what's not? Like, when did you decide where my career goes? Thank you very much. Quite insulting. And then the other one was I wanted to take on this particular project, but they said, "Oh no, you definitely wouldn't be considered unless you worked 4 days." So I came back 3 days a week. No, you wouldn't be considered unless it was 4 days. And I'm like, well, why? And this wasn't even with the hiring manager. This was with my manager who didn't want me to apply. And so she was, no, 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 you would need to increase your days. You need to be working 4 days at least. You can't do 3 days. And me being me, wanting to do this exciting project was like, yeah, okay, come home, talk to husband, like talk to daycare. What does this look like? Yeah, okay, I'll increase to 4 days just so I got the opportunity. Not even speaking to the hiring manager because I was like, oh well, my manager must know that they won't accept me. So certainly after becoming a mother, seeing this, and then I think the final, I guess, kicker was when I did resign after the twins and said, enough is enough, I'm not returning to that workplace. The message that the team and the organization got from my leader was she can't handle 3 kids under 3. That's why she's resigned. And now I have 2 very successful businesses and a partner in a third. So I well and truly can handle 3 under 3. But it was the opportunities that continued to be thrown in my face that mother has to come first. That just not right. It just shouldn't still be happening. This is 2023.
Yeah, that's wild.
Mm.
That because it's almost like there's two ends of the spectrum because you've experienced that, and I definitely have heard that as well. And then you get the other side where it's like you have to work as if you don't have children.
Yeah, yeah. And that's what there's a saying about that, Nicole. There's something like we expect mothers to mother like
They
their
don't have
kids
a job.
they don't have a job, yeah, and work like they don't have kids.
Mm.
Uh and look, there's a lot of studies, and before we called up, having a look at just what was out there, there obviously we are looking at 2023 that affordability means that both parents do have to work in majority of cases now. Um, and that women actually, it goes beyond that, around that sense of identity and purpose outside the family life. And that I know for me, that was so, so important. And I have, I'm all for, the journey looks different to everyone, but for someone who is quite career focused, and I liked that sense of identity and purpose outside mum,
Mm.
um, found it so insulting and so heartbreaking that I was stripped of these opportunities for this newfound identity of mum. And I was still coming to terms with this new identity and this new juggle. Yet then to be chucked this, you can't succeed as well as a working mother, was just something that I just went, I what? Like this can't be. Like it made no sense. So I think while we've got this world where affordability and everything is still such a huge topic for so many families, and we've got great access to childcare and those kind of things, and we've got women who do want that sense of identity and purpose. Uh, oh yeah, we need to change the what's happening in the workplace and have more conversations like this that says it can't continue to be swept under the rug. We can't treat working mothers like this.
Yeah. And whatever happened to job share?
Ah, but and that's why I said I joined this organization, because the whole EVP around being a family friendly workplace. But unfortunately, I worked for a leader who didn't believe in that.
Yeah.
That, you should be 5 days. And when COVID hit, you shouldn't be working from home. While I'm in the office, you should all be working from the office. And I'm like, well, and again, I get that it's going to be leader by leader, and the organizationally the values might be there, but I think, yeah, we've still got societal value on work and parenting, and yeah.
Yeah. And that's a bit of lack of integrity or lack of aligned values, right? Like what the company says and what actually happens is two things that are, miles apart in your situation. So what should have happened in your opinion with, let's just say, your particular circumstance?
I never should have gone back to work post the first child is the major learning. Look, and I joined a community called Freelancing Gems, and they're really big around uh, helping women find that, it's that side hustle culture, right? It's like women are trying more than ever. So they surveyed over 8,000 people, and they found that over 36% of workers are considering starting a side hustle or freelancing within the next 12 months.
Mhm.
And I reflect on my own journey, is that the only way that I truly felt that I could do the juggle and be an effective, I can go after my own goals, and I'm not going to be shut down by people who don't believe in my value, but I can still effectively juggle my three wonderful children, my household, and everything that comes with that. Was, well, I'm not going to work for an institutionalized, oh, we value it. Well, do you? Um, so I think, in hindsight, I think there's a lot to be said around how we support, um, or how we truly promote flexible work practices.
Mm.
So, what is the reason? And I think this goes back to when I talked about pre-kids, the resentment I found towards the working parents, because again, there was this uneven application of flexible work that, oh, well, you're a parent, so you should have access to flexible work, whereas you're not, so we should expect you to work Monday to Friday, 9 to 5.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, or longer. So I think employers really need to reflect on what does flexible work mean, and how do we best support um, parents' paid leave and access to that flexibility. I think we need to get to, and I talk about it in the health and safety space a lot, is how do we let people come to work as their whole self? So does that mean that for one working mother, and again, I repeat, I'm only talking for the mothers. I get that there's the father element to it, but for working mothers, there will be some that are just happy to turn up 2 or 3 days a week, do their couple of hours and go home. That's fine. But have we sat down with the individuals, particularly when they return from maternity leave or are going on maternity leave, and
Mm.
what do we do to set you up for success? What does success look like for you in this newfound space? Because I can tell you now, there is nothing more pivotal in a woman's life than becoming a mother, and how much that changes your self-worth, your value, how you perceive yourself. It's a massive shift mentally. Someone relies on you 24/7. I found that really consuming. So for me, work really let me step outside that box. So how does an organization set up that individual for success? Because I can be the absolute best employee that you've got, because half the time I've already worked half a day before I've even got to the office. I can juggle a lot more. I've got competing priorities and I can get them all done, right? Um, so I think, how do we set individuals up for success? I think government need to look at how we make sure that, there's childcare, there's affordability, because I know in, my working mum circle, is the cost of daycare and childcare is just absolutely an abomination. And you kind of question, what am I working for when it's all going to childcare? But it's like, okay, well, my values and the self-worth and that identity. Uh, and then in families, we know that mothers are still doing that really primary care kind of piece, and that, the household management. How do we set families up better? How do we, from a society, start to really look at equal opportunity, shared equitable homework, those kind of things. So there's a lot that should have happened.
Yeah, definitely. What about your advice for leaders if they've got expecting or current mothers in their teams? What advice would you give them?
I think it has to be, have a one-on-one conversation with them, because it's going to look different for every single family. And I look at, I didn't expect to go on maternity leave at 31 weeks. I didn't expect to go on stress leave at 23 weeks with the twins, but circumstances meant that happened. If the conversation had have been, how do we support you through this? Rather than at 23 weeks, when I went on sick leave, I was told no one's gone on maternity leave at 23 weeks. You're going to have to go on sick leave. We'll ring the workers' compensation team to see how we can get a return to work practice for you. The return to work team rings me and says, hey, we're looking to make sure that we can get you back to work as soon as possible. And I'm like, I'm 23 weeks pregnant with twins. This is oh, I'm so sorry that your leader has put you through this. And I'm like, me too. So the workers, I can't remember what they were called, but yeah, not workers comp, but like a return to work type team, rehabilitation. So the leaders have to respect that the journey looks different for everyone. There will be times that they don't want to be kept in contact. They don't want to be part of the loop. They're happy to receive an email once or a text every 6 months, but set your people up for success so that there's that opportunity. And I think opportunity is the key word in that it's going to look different for everyone.
And if you've got a good relationship with your team, you know who they are, you know where their heart is, where their
Mm,
goals are, what they want to achieve, and how they want to do that, and how they best communicate. So
yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting you mentioned the return to work team as well, because it sounds very similar. Like these cases should be treated, or people should be treated very similarly in being connected and being supported. And I think both areas are not being done right
Mm.
or well. And that's another rabbit hole we can go down a little bit
Yeah,
later.
yeah, yeah, but it's dead right. They're on extended leave. How do we stay connected? How do we communicate? How do we get you back to work with what do they call it? My brain has not worked. But say if it was an injury, we'd be like, okay, you need to work these particular hours to best set you up for success. You need to leave in this particular time. Like, we do that for an injured worker, but for a return to work mother, we just go, hey, you're back to work, great. Sure, we can negotiate days, but then it's like, well, I only work 3 days a week, but I'm guilty because the team needs something on the Friday. Okay, I'll just get that email done. Here, I'm nursing a baby. Quick, I'll just get that email done. So yeah, I think I agree. There's a lot to be said around that return to work and that overlay into we do it so well for an injured worker in some cases. Um, yeah, how do we apply that process for return to work mums?
Yeah. And know your biases. Like we
Ah,
all come with our past experiences and our
yeah,
history, our our biases based on how we've grown up, how we've,
yeah. We've
been in.
all got a different set of values and beliefs, and that's what makes us an individual. But recognize that sometimes that does create a bias.
Mm.
Mm.
Having good relationships allows you to put those things down because you know the person as a person. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that's not enough.
Mm.
What's your advice for current or expecting mothers? Do you have any tips for them to navigate this tricky territory?
Yeah, look, I think it is. You just have to look at what systems are there, and start to write down the what does your return to work plan look like? If you're an injured worker, what does it look like when you're off? And I know that, if it's an injured worker, we have, okay, well, we'll check in with you weekly or we'll check in with you monthly. What does success look like for you whilst you go on mat leave? And I get that there's a little element of unknown because, I didn't know that I would have the twins at 27 weeks and we'd be in NICU for a number of times and what that whole journey would look like. I didn't know. So be adaptable to that. But I think what that setup for success, what does it look like for you? We have to start jotting that down and communicating it. It's going to take a bit of bravery if there's that disconnect with your leader, but we have to start breaking down some of that barrier so that you can be best set up for success. If you won't advocate for your own needs and what's going to be successful for you, then no one else is going to do it. So it's a scary time, but I think, yeah, you need to look at what does success look like during this period, and yeah, how can you stay adaptable to that plan as well?
Yeah. And it might be scary to share your needs and ask, but at the end of the day, it'll actually make your leader and your team's life easier. So if you say,
Mm,
I would love to, like, I love this team and I want to be, can we check in once a week? If it's a text or an email or a phone call with your favorite work colleague, like, ask for that. Or if it's, look, it's going to be really busy, or I know I said I wanted that, but things have gone crazy at home. Can
yeah,
maybe do it at another time? But if you can come to them with a plan, then they can look at it and go, oh, okay, I can schedule this in the diary, or I can definitely meet this. This is totally fine. This is totally okay. So yeah, I
and
always,
at the end of the day, you're still an employee. So I think that, there's a duty of care there from a leader, from a health and safety perspective. We talk about the psychosocial element, that they're still a worker. Just because they're on maternity leave doesn't make them less of a worker. So we need to make sure that we're still meeting our duty of care to the people that matter.
yeah. And if it's not coming from top down, why don't we start a bit of a revolution from bottom up and say, this is what I need,
Mm.
what I'd like. This is what would make me happier in this situation. And don't all workplaces and leaders want that for their team?
One would think. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Shouldn't
And
all
but hang
workplaces?
on, isn't this why you have the podcast? Is
Yeah,
that there's a lot of should.
there is. There is, but let's do it. Let's create a revolution of asking for what we want and asking for what we need. And I really believe that if you make your leader's life easier, they will do it. So
Ah, yeah, yep.
and if
Here's
they
the
don't,
report. All I need is for you to sign it, please and
yeah.
thank you. Yeah,
And if they don't, maybe it's not the right leader and not the right place. And you and I are in the business of helping to fix that.
yeah, yeah.
But identifying it early, it helps, or identifying it at some point. But Look, I really appreciate you coming on and chatting about this. It's been super interesting, and thank you so much. And I just want to say to anyone listening, if they want to learn more about you, to connect with you on LinkedIn, or to visit your website, womeninsafety.net, because you have so many resources, and also the membership to support women in safety as well. So thank you for everything that you do. And yeah, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. And let's hope it's not so much swept under the rug in future conversations.
100%. Thanks, Alanna.
Thanks, Nicole.